Brandon, what's going on, man? Happy to be with you today.
Yeah, Bo, excited to have this conversation, and thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on.
Well, we've been having several conversations over the past few weeks, and we thought it'd be good to connect and put some videos out. And I know you and we're in this planning season right now with a lot of clients, and really wanted to talk about some of the straightforward marketing conversations that we're having with those clients in this season, in this crazy year. So I know you work with a certain clientele and set of brands, and over on my side, a little bit different. But I think a big part of what we're going to focus on today is the idea of the marketing and sales funnel in today's environment and how we're consulting and navigating clients through that today.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly, every business coming through the middle of the year and how things got started in March. A lot of companies were in survival. Now revenue now. Everything was now and kind of short term, and obviously sympathetic to that. We've all been through that. I think now, it seems like companies are starting to pick their heads up, sort of past
Yep.
Labor Day through the summer. Hopefully kids are back to school in whatever shape and form that looks like. And so starting to look into, well, what does planning for 2021 look like, and really picking their heads up there. So I know you and I have been having more conversations with clients that's picking up and people that are really looking to figure out what does 2021 look like, and obviously the I think the funnel conversation is very, very, very important. So curious what that's looked like on your end, and obviously happy to share some of what those conversations have looked like on my end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, it does start off with identifying those goals. Earlier this year, there was this need to contract in terms of investment and spend and really be highly trackable. That's one thing we're going to dive into, this idea of I'm really looking for volume of leads and I'm looking for a specific cost per lead. But in our conversation, I know we think both of us agree, it really need to open it up and think about the top of your funnel and more brand and more awareness. So as you're having these conversations with clients going into 2021, and they say, hey, strategically thinking about my funnel, what do I need to be considering? How are you consulting? What's that conversation look like?
Yeah, that's a great point. And certainly some of the same conversation points on my end. Having conversations with business owners, I mean, even as early or recent as Monday, where they're coming to us basically saying, what can we do to like make the cash register ring? And again, like sympathetic to that, and we will do everything we can. One of the challenges, and I think one of the awareness points that business leaders need to consider, especially if they've not, on our side, maybe they haven't invested into digital or they haven't done, a heavy marketing plan, is just the reality and just being, candid and truthful about the fact that, if you're in a scenario where you're not a brand leader, you're not a recognized name in the community or your industry, starting out with what we might call a lead generation campaign where you're like looking for action from prospects within like one or two or three touches. I mean, just to be realistic, like, you might be disappointed by that. And frankly, my biggest concern is that business leaders would do something really short term like that, a lead generation campaign, we would call bottom of the funnel at the action level. And then they would come up with the conclusion that like digital marketing doesn't work, or see, investing in marketing is not a wise decision. So I think it's really important, to have I keep using this word awareness in different ways, apologies there, but awareness of like, where are we in the market? Like, what is how many people in our market know our name, being honest about that. But secondly, having the right expectations for what you're doing. And hopefully your marketing team or person or marketing agency is really guiding that conversation. But it's about having right expectations. And maybe we've got to move at the top of the funnel to really start driving awareness in order to create the demand that we want to see.
I totally agree. We have conversations with clients, and a lot of times when they think top of the funnel and they think awareness and attracting new customers, they associate that idea with inefficiencies. And that, well, hey, I can go do these other very efficient campaigns, and if I only want to pay $25 per lead, I can go build a campaign in Google to do so. But we would totally agree, it is that idea. And in this environment, it feels like it's been intensified of where I'm weighing near-term return versus long-term sustainability. And definitely awareness top of the funnel and executing at the top of the funnel for us is a priority. A few thoughts that we're collaborating with clients on in consulting is to be as efficient as possible, And to be as effective as possible at the top of the funnel, first-party data and leveraging previous customer data or ongoing customer data. Who's buying what? What geographies are they living in? Do we have an email address? Do we have a zip code? Can we go model that data? And then we can go find others that look like your most effective customers. So I'm not going and recommending the client necessarily turn on a broadcast TV campaign if they're only looking for a very niche clientele or audience. But we can take that data and we can go leverage it, something like digital video, whether it be connected TV or pre-roll. And I know video is something that you and I've talked about a good bit, but there's opportunities to go and feed the top of my funnel with video and other digital tactics in targeted ways. So we would agree, and then ongoing nurturing in terms of understanding that audience, what moves them down to the next stage. So I do think that's potentially, my last thought on this as we continue through the conversation, Brandon, is that there's this pendulum of trackability and that I can get everything down, the idea of attribution, that I can get down to a very detailed level that you don't cut off your nose to spite your face, because you still need to continue feeding that funnel and not be so concerned about lower funnel efficiencies when I'm thinking about long-term sustainability.
No, that's fantastic. And I know that our media mixes are a little bit different in our agencies, but what's really interesting about the main point that you bring up about using, leveraging first-party data that you may already have. So one of the things we're doing a lot of, and this is sort of like a buzzword in the industry, is using what's called, lookalike audiences on a social media platform or Google or whatever. We actually are currently running a campaign for a company that, one side of their business got hit really hard with COVID because they serve the restaurant industry. So obviously that went, is very tenuous even today. And so really they're looking to us to really open up a digital side of their business, and we're able to leverage customer data in a responsible way, to actually create a digital audience that matches their customer. And actually we're having a tremendous amount of success really quickly. And I think you used the word efficient, and I would also sort of tag the word of just being smart, like doing smart things. The second item, you mentioned attribution. I had a conversation with a business the other day where there was a lot of energy and interest into like really honing down on reconciling attribution. And one thing I want to say there is attribution is key. We'll take all the data we can get. We'll take it every time we can get it. But I would say I want to contextualize that attribution conversation, because I think first and foremost, what I want to use attribution for is comparing the success of one campaign in one channel to the success of another campaign in another channel. So analyzing attribution in a vacuum can actually be dangerous. In other words, what I've said before is you can argue about attribution so much and trying to reconcile data that you can actually hurt the business because you end up not doing anything because you don't have confidence in the data. So I'd rather compare campaign to campaign from an attribution standpoint. Because again, Google and Facebook are going to count attribution differently. So I just want to say, I think that's a hot topic. And I just want to say, be careful. The higher up in the funnel we are, there may be really healthy things we do with content that doesn't have the nice packaged attribution that a Facebook buy now campaign would generate for us. So just be careful there to make sure that we don't cut off our nose to spite our face for the sake of attribution.
Yeah, totally agree. The technology likely will be there, but as you talk about the channels and the marketplace is so fragmented, I think for us, we want to be very realistic with the clients in terms of what level we can get to, because linking, while we have top technology that's getting us there, there's still, for the majority of marketers, despite perhaps some of the Amazons, maybe some things that Google's doing, if you're doing everything in the Google platform, it's really challenging because things are happening on Facebook from a paid perspective. They're happening on Instagram organically, website traffic, listicles where, articles are pulling in and ranking products. I mean, the user journey is so fragmented through the funnel. Would totally agree. You're really looking to use it as directional to build efficiencies and not try to be so efficient that now I'm not going to reach potential audience out there. But you mentioned something about digital, and I think we were talking and you were saying that it's a hot topic in the boardroom, but as you think about the funnel, where are you having conversations of a digital nature that you're starting to implement and explore with clients that maybe are first time for some of these clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, again, harking back to those conversations of, obviously, business owners or executives are coming basically saying, how can I drive top line revenue, in the next 90 days through digital marketing? And certainly digital marketing offers those kinds of opportunities. Again, we can be smart and efficient in the way we spend and utilize data. What I think that there's a concept or a talking that I'm trying to be successful in landing with companies and affecting their thinking. So the way I would say that is, we need to, so if we can see the funnel, top, middle, bottom, we need to be spending money at the top, in the middle, at the bottom. Like we need to be filling a full funnel, but that means we have to be spending throughout the full funnel. If 80% of our money is lead gen, we may not have a full enough funnel to actually take advantage of that spend. And that would not be efficient. That would not be smart. And we might even come to the wrong conclusions about what we needed to be doing going forward and what our opportunity looked like. So I think the conversations, and frankly, and a lot of times, are shifting to, maybe we just need a fuller funnel. I've got a couple of conversations I'm in that I would consider, they're called, long consideration market. So it's like, it's big, expensive, custom software or something. It's not going to be a 90-day decision. It's a 9-month decision. And so in those cases, we've got to make sure that at the wide part of the funnel, we've got to make sure that we are actively engaging those prospects. Because if we're only at the bottom of the funnel, I think we have to realize that there's a lot of our prospects that are not in buy mode. They are not in that right now. And if we're only talking to people in buy mode, we are actually not talking to most of our prospects. And no matter how much you know about marketing, speaking to a business owner, we all know that that's not an avenue for success. So I think making sure that we don't just talk about full funnel, but we actually adapt our budget to be spending at each level and of the funnel. And that's one of the talking points I'm trying to get to resonate with business owners, because I think that's a healthy mindset shifting here into 2021.
Yep, I would totally agree. One thing we found when we think about upper to lower funnel and nurturing a consumer or potential buyer through the funnel, we found a lot of success with video in today's space, specifically digital video, but also using video in conjunction, say, with broadcast TV. And what we found through several clients executing at the upper funnel, we're looking more long form video. We're targeting the specific audience. We're delivering a message we believe resonates with them. And we're even A/B testing those messages to see what does generate traffic and increase the velocity of the movement down the funnel. But we're seeing long form, like 30-second digital video at the top of the funnel, and then Brandon does something, and then I go ahead and I nurture him with 15-second and 6-second video down the funnel to action. And we're actually seeing with digital video, and I'm interested to hear anything that you and your team's thinking about video, but we're seeing video drive offline action and driving customers to brick and mortar retailers, and we're seeing online video drive online action and filling out a lead form or a web application on a website. So we've really seen video in sequence work over the past few weeks. That's a big part of our strategy with clients, developing those video assets, being able to test those video assets and having them in different links, 30, 15, and 6. And let's put that narrative together that I can walk that user down the journey to make a decision and buy my product or service. Are y'all doing anything or having conversations in regards to video and how to best leverage with your clients?
It's a good conversation. Certainly we're using video a lot, especially when, we work with a lot of service, B2B service-based companies where, it's value proposition, it's brand perception. It's not a commodity kind of offering. And certainly video, there are things we can do on video that we really can't do in any other way. There's a sort of a soft layer of that and an interactive layer, like you said. I know, like with YouTube TV, it's, for instance, as an example, those platforms are outperforming, all of the broadcasts from an ad revenue standpoint, like all of the traditional broadcast stations combined. I was reading a stat the other day. And so I think, with pre-roll and post-roll and all of mid-roll and all that, the opportunity there is really tremendous. And I think as well, another like launching point off of that conversation is talking about even creating content and being able to splice that up and get a lot of mileage out of it. So if you're in a marketing conversation or you're a business leader and you're thinking, again, I want to spend efficient, I want to spend smart, go create a 30-minute video, go create a 15 or 9-minute video, and you can actually slice and splice that thing up, and you can get a ton of mileage. You've got social media, you've got, your pre-roll ads on, on YouTube or YouTube TV or, whatever. You've got all of those opportunities where that one video can really feed a lot within the marketing funnel. The same is true of podcasts or having conversations like we're having today. I think it's trying to not just think, well, I've got a 15-minute video that we posted on the site. You can get 2 or 3 other layers of activity done from that one asset, and that's a really good way to be smart and efficient and just a straightforward approach. Today.
And I like what you were saying earlier, that there's benefits to developing the content and it living organically on LinkedIn or it living on Facebook, or developing content for your website that can educate and differentiate yourself to your audience. But you also talked about the other channels to be getting, paid channels, or, owned, earned, and paid channels. What are some thoughts that you had there? That was really had my ears perked up.
Yeah. So 2 things about that, and let's sort of move top of funnel here. So we're in that kind of awareness where people, they either don't know our brand, they don't know our name, they don't really know what we do, or they don't know the kinds of problems that we solve in the marketplace and the value we deliver. And we need to establish that credibility and that awareness. I think that there's a split that I would make between, there are things that customers are searching for that are intent driven once they get into a buy mode. And what do I mean by that? Once they've identified a problem and now they're starting to look for a solution. They may look for custom software company, Greenville SC, or digital marketing company, Knoxville, Tennessee. Like that is a categorical search for a solution. The further top we move in the funnel, they're not looking for solutions. They have problems that they haven't identified a solution for, or maybe it's not become a high enough priority for them to begin to solve, or they're in the data gathering phase of the proposition. So what I'm trying to tell companies to do, and actually this is really interesting both from a sales and a marketing, like a sales executive can absolutely take advantage of what I'm about to say as much as marketing, in top of funnel activities. Let's talk about LinkedIn for a second. If you're posting on LinkedIn, I'm trying to think about what are the problems that my customer is having or my prospect is having that our company is able to solve. I want to talk about those problems and the effects of those problems and how we are solving those problems. That's top of funnel content and top of funnel activity. And we can actually use a paid media strategy to get that content in front of more people. Again, even though they're not in buy mode, because if you want to leg up on the competition, be talking about a prospect's problem before they get into buy mode, before they start looking for 2 or 3 people to possibly fulfill and to solve this problem. Talk to them before they start looking for solutions. That's one strategy I think is really critical to company success in 2021.
Yeah, well, I think it's a versatile way to think too, because you're right. I mean, the sales, whether it's us in our business or our clients in their business, there is this mindset that we have to navigate and make sure we're having the appropriate conversation at the right time as we're looking to provide our products and services to clients, and vice versa. Our clients are having those same challenges and looking for those same opportunities as they look to acquire customers and make sure they're talking to the customers appropriately in the correct context. Because one thing, I think you and I, we talk about watching Gary Vee, and one thing I got from him is that you've got to have the content positioned in the appropriate context. And that goes back to this idea of buy mode versus, hey, I'm really just getting educated and finding my solutions right now. As we wrap it up here, perhaps we talk about, as we get to that lower funnel, what we're looking at, how we're looking to optimize. One thing we're seeing is that being aware of cross-device, activities are happening on smartphones. They're starting on smartphones. they're ending on smartphones in the terms of purchase. I think even B2B, I think this past 6 months, 8 months, it's brought the B2B marketplace and that ecosystem more towards where B2C has been for some time. It hadn't quite caught up, but this idea of cross device, I'm on my desktop, I'm on my laptop, I'm at the house, I'm at the office. So just really acknowledging that customers today are engaging with your content and they're going through your online content and sales processes across these multitude of devices. We need to be able to track that and understand that and what's appropriate on each device as we work them to a decision. But as we think about consulting our clients and where we ultimately want to get is a buying decision, what are some thoughts and conversations that you and your team are having with your partners?
Yeah, that's great. So in a conversation this week, we're working with a service company, actually across the country in this case, but we had the intake, so the connection we're trying to make to generate the lead for the service. It's a contact form, and it's like kind of a lot of fields, which obviously isn't ideal. And so the behavior we were seeing both in the marketplace and with our own data was actually that we were getting a lot of phone calls and not a lot of form fill outs. And it's like, well, that's obvious, right? Let's switch to making sure that the dial is like the focal point. And it's like, how clear and how easy can we make that? And I mean, let me just say something that's really like surface level. There are websites I hit where, like, on a mobile device, again, if you're serving any sort of consumer audience, like mobile is, everything. We're seeing like 85% mobile traffic numbers. And that's not an outlier. That's really the norm now. In some cases, it's closer to 65 or 70. But it's like, is it easy to call you? Is it easy to find the phone number? I mean, I think a lot of it is really understanding not like big market best practices, but understanding like your customer. What does your customer need, and what will they need to do when they want to reach out? And that's why I would say be careful about adapting like these big generic playbooks. There's a lot of value to understanding your customer, and I think COVID has highlighted that. So frankly, it's more about, I think, understanding the decision that they're going to need to make. A quick tactic I would say is, if there is a standardized decision that's going to be made, make sure you have a landing page that like facilitates that decision. Like, what are the 2 or 3 pieces of data that are going to be asked about? Give that to the consumer or the customer in one place to facilitate that decision. And then make sure you have deeper, sort of more dig-oriented pieces of content throughout the site, in case you're working with some of those people that are in research mode. So facilitate both of those things. But at the end of the day, you've got to know how your customer wants to reach out to you and what they're looking to do.
I like one thing that I'm taking away from what you're saying right there is in today's environment, we really want to put, and really have to, in order to keep pace, we've got to put the user or our target audience or the consumer in the driver's seat, and we've got to give them options. We've got to guide them and lead them down the path that's going to educate them and allow them to make a decision. But I agree. We've moved on from the days, I think gated content. I'm always going to lean towards ungated and allow my content to speak for itself and to be consumed openly and freely, and sort of be an open marketplace of ideas. But whether it's gated content or it's, as you said, simple things on the lead form, do I allow the consumer just to give me an email address if that's where they are in their buying journey, versus no, I demand everything down to your social? I really like where you're keying in there. That lead form conversion rate optimization is the term that I think is used across the industry, right, or CRO. But what can we do not only from our campaigns and how we're getting you there, but then what is that experience inclusive of the lead form that converts? So I totally agree there. Well, hey, as we wrap it up here, any last thoughts that you have as we think about, I'm sure many conversations you and I will be having here in the next few weeks as we plan, but anything you want to leave the people with?
Yeah, I like the thought that you closed out there. I would say, 3 points. Get to know your customer more deeply. I told somebody, you never get in trouble for understanding your customer better. Like, it's always. Number 2, like you said, or I'll mention, unleash the content. Like, you need to get the content in front of more people. And then 3rd, ungate the content. Let's stop making sure that people don't see it, because we're gating it. There's a time and place for gated content, but unleash the content and ungate the content.
Cool. Hey, Brandon, I'm glad we got to connect and spend some time together. Let's do it again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bo. Good to talk to you today.
All right, man.